All right, so I just got a couple of seconds here with Christian von Koenigsegg, who, I'll be honest, is the only person in the automotive community that actually intimidates me. This man is brilliant, and he has literally taken shits that are smarter than I am. And it's not often that I am in that company. So I want to talk, when I was at the factory and I drove the Agera,
right,
I had a question, and the reason that car sort of scares me is because I don't comprehend it. And I asked you, because I've driven fast cars, and I said,
right.
Christian, how do you hook 1,300 horsepower? And I don't know if this is your standard answer, but your answer was, you'll find out in a minute.
Right.
And you still didn't answer the question. How do you put 1,300 horsepower through the same size tire that other people have?
Right, and when you drove the car, you notice it actually hooks, right?
It does, but there's no fighting traction control or anything.
Right, it just goes.
How do you do it?
So it's a multiple of reasons.
Okay, now this is where he's smarter than me again. Okay, continue.
So it's how things interplay, especially in the suspension area, together with the tire, together with the sidewall, together with how it cambers when the car squats. But one of the keys, I would say, is we have very long wishbones with very little track width deviation during suspending or squatting.
Okay.
So we get less distortion to the contact patch between the tire and the ground due to that when we're squatting. And we want to squat a little bit to let the car settle down during acceleration and spread out the load, like a dragster does when it takes off. It squats and digs in and goes. So and the other thing that most other cars have that we don't have an anti-squat geometry. The thing with an anti-squat geometry, it makes a track car or something that you want to have handling in every direction better because it keeps it more stable, the platform.
Okay.
But when the car do squat due to a lot of power, it again distorts the wheel geometry and upsets the contact patch. So we have the triplex suspension instead, where we didn't have to put in anti-squat geometry into the arms or the mounting points, but we did put it into how the car was suspended instead.
Okay.
So we have customers who have Ageras and other hyper mega cars and so on, and they say no other car puts down the power as good.
But it's not progressive boost or anything like that. There's no traction.
No, I mean that can come into play eventually, but that's not what gives that advantage. It's just a mechanical grip.
That's unreal to me. And you feel it.
And it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And due to that, we don't wear out our tires as quickly either.
Yeah.
Most of our customers, they change the tires because they get old.
They get old.
Not that they wear out, or that they wear out unevenly like many of these cars do. And it's because we're not spinning them unnecessarily.
Okay, yep. So, and your car grips better than most all-wheel drive cars I've driven with big power.
Right.
And you're talking about a rear-wheel drive car with the same street tires that everybody else drives with. So
what's interesting with that car, it has of course similar suspension to these cars.
Okay.
But about 40% of the power comes from the electrical motors on the rear axle.
Okay.
And they're directly connected to the rear wheels and they're torque vectoring. Okay. So if we
this
would
is where he's losing me now.
Yeah, if we would break loose the tires, we can control them so finely just over the slip limit without going off power from the combustion engine. That can be flat on, and then we just calibrate the electrical motors to stay on the grip limit, and there is no shifting, so you don't get any disturbance during the acceleration.
You're
so you can just
so
paint,
far over my head
you can paint like thin black lines for like over half a mile, and then you're up to 150, 160 miles per hour, and just maximize the acceleration in a way never been possible before.
You've obviously felt how that drives. I haven't. I hope to when we come out there later this year. The JF was trying to explain this to me because I was trying to get this torque vectoring, and I saw the video of you sort of downshifting it, and it just blows my mind. If you only have one gear, and that gear is capable of sustaining speed from 0 to 250.
Yes.
And it's direct drive. So is there a neutral? Is there a clutch?
Well, there is a hydraulic coupling, which you can say a clutch. It's basically a very advanced torque converter, you can say. We call it a Hydra-loop. It's very different than your normal torque converter because it has to work with a completely different gear ratio than anything else before, and it's much lighter. It's different materials, but it has a carbon clutch lockup function,
Okay.
and it has the hydraulic slipping element.
So when you turn it on, it's not in gear.
It's not in
the
gear. It's
engine
open.
and the
It's
drive.
hydraulically open, and when you reverse on the electrical rear axle.
Okay.
When you take off slowly, we feed in the combustion engine, just because it feels natural and smooth. But it could take off only on the electrical rear axle.
Okay.
But if you want to floor it, you need everything. So then we start the electrical motor on the crank. We start closing the hydraulic clutch, and we give everything on the combustion engine and everything on the rear axle at the same time. And then we have this massive power.
This is where I start to get lost, and I'm like, son of a gun, he's
So
smart.
this shift down thing is we open hydraulic coupling, let the engine rev a little bit freer to gain boost while we're kicking in the electric motors immediately. So you get kind of like a shift down feature.
So,
but it's not a gear, it's
but
a clutch opener.
If I'm simplifying this in my head, and you have to bring yourself down to my level right now, if you only have one gear, it's got to be sixth. So you have to have 7, whatever it is. It's got to be a really long gear.
It's like you're starting in 7th gear.
The problem with starting in 7th gear is there's no power between 10 RPM and then 4,000 RPM until you hit a power band.
We can't lock up the clutch until 20 miles per hour. We can only feed in hydraulic slippage until then.
Okay.
And use the rear axle.
So it's sort of electric until it gets enough into that power
it
band.
It gets help from the hydraulic slipping, especially if you push a little bit harder. And if you push medium hard, we lock it up at around 20 miles per hour. If you push harder, we don't lock it up there because we want to keep the revs up a little bit, and then we lock it in maybe at 40,
I'm
50,
going to be
60.
banging my head against the wall for the next half hour.
It's kind of simple, really.
I know that's what to you it's so simple. To me and everybody else are like, I have no idea what he's saying.
It's kind of.
I guess when
it's like basically we removed stuff.
Yeah. I know you removed half the car to make that happen. But let's get to the. I know all of these cars are sold. The starting price on an Agera or whatever the current model Agera line is.
Yeah, Agera RS right now.
Is basically what's the starting price?
So the Agera RS start at like 1.8.
Okay. Yeah. And then what's a fully? I want everything you're offering. What's a fully?
Well, if you tick all the optional boxes, you probably get up to like 2.3, something like that.
Okay, so not a wide variance.
And then you can. I want Austrish leather. I want gold leaf. This and that. You know, you can go on and on.
Of the check boxes, what's the most expensive option that is available?
It's fully tinted, full carbon body, I would say.
Okay, and what is that?
It's like 140.
And that's just not painted, essentially, right?
Yeah.
That's just the full carbon fiber look.
And then a tinted lacquer.
Okay.
Yeah. But the thing with that is that it's not only that it's not painted. We have to make the carbon visibly flawless.
Correct.
And basically when
lines up perfectly.
Lines up. It can't weave, which has no technical impact. It's just a visual impact. It cannot have like moire effects in how it reflects the sun. When you roll out the road, you have to. If one fiber is off one direction, that happens. It's in a sense like wood. You know, you have like.
Yeah, the grain has to be right.
You have some aspects going on. It's like woven not by hand necessarily, but it's sort of a living. It's carbon, you know, but it's kind of like a living material in a sense. So you have to check everything, lay it up properly, match it. So when panels are painted, that's not critical. It doesn't even mean anything.
Sure.
But when you visualize and you match up the door to the rear hood to this, it can't.
So what you're saying is that there's a guy out there with a painted Koenigsegg who doesn't realize his weave is not perfect.
Underneath, well, it's perfect
it's
from a
visual,
strength,
sure.
and it's perfect for what it is.
What's the most expensive? What's the next most expensive option? Is there like a dash clock or something like that? What goes in it that?
So, what's the next expensive? Well, it's kind of active stuff, active chassis, and things like that. Yeah.
And now, has there been anyone? This is going to be my last question. Has there been anyone that's purchased a Agera from you? Because I remember how fast it is.
Sorry, what? Agera?
An Agera.
Oh yeah.
No, has there been anyone that has purchased it that said, "Can you crank up the boost a little bit? Can you give me a little bit more?"
Yeah. I mean, on the Agera S, the Agera R, we cranked up the boost. On that one, you can't do much.
Okay. And
I mean,
this is about where you hit with the technology. So you're about 1350.
60. Yeah. It's usually a few more, but to go beyond that, we could put a much bigger turbo on and have 200 more horsepower, but then we lose drivability.
Okay.
That's driving fantastic.
Yeah.
You don't have any noticeable lag. The turbos come on at 2,500 RPM. It's fun to drive. It's not like like a bomb like it otherwise could be.
Yep.
So it would start to become a compromise.
Sure.
Unless we have like 4 small turbos and this and that, then can we package it, how we do heat control, temperature management and these things. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but everything works perfect as a package in hot climate and cold climate, drivability.
It's my favorite car.
Whatever.
I'm telling you right now, I've been around and I've driven a lot. That's still my favorite car to this day.
Thank you.
You made a believer out of me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's all you, as somebody who's not going to buy a Koenigsegg, needed to know about Koenigsegg.